shaker table using just a box fan. I broke 2 of the blades off, glued a piece of plexiglass on top, and then glued these little rubber feet to allow it to vibrate. And so I'm going to see if this works as a classic demo to show liquefaction.
Today I just want to point out some older buildings and how the ground level is just really out of whack with them. And it's my belief that there was actually a cataclysm, maybe even a series of cataclysms in the 1600s that as one of the side effects, it deposited just layers and layers of mud, dirt, earth, and it engulfed these buildings, and then we've been digging them out or destroying them altogether. So I just wanted to point out, this is the old Boston State House, and as you can see, there's probably a whole nother floor here, but it's underneath the ground. And you can see here these windows getting tinier and tinier, and you have an entrance going into the second floor. And this is pretty common with these buildings that we're going to be looking at. But I don't think this building was designed like this. This building was built, and then this event happened, and then people just kind of refitted these buildings, and then we've been given false dates for these buildings is also my belief.
Yeah, just when you think you understand what's going on, you realize you really don't. You know, mudfloods, I mean, one of the most fascinating, interesting topics I've come across other than the globe deception. You know, I gotta say, I realize now that the people in power, they lied about our history. They lied about everything. They lied about who we are, where we're from. They're lying about what this place is. They even are lying about how this place works. There's overwhelming evidence that our ancient ancestors was far more advanced than academia is claiming them to be. The architecture alone proves that there was a worldwide civilization that was in sync with one another. I think they were more far advanced than we were today. In the 19th century, there was a massive reconstruction going on all over the world from a cataclysm that happened sometime in the 17th century. Are we the survivors of a worldwide event that took out majority of the world's population? Did the controllers of this world go underground and come back up after this event? Was it a reset? That's the question. And if so, how many resets there have been? One could argue there's a lot of clues all over the world to show that this is the case. We just re-engineered the technology that was left behind. There's an old saying, there's nothing new under the sun. So I guess what I'm trying to do here is to connect some dots. I'm trying to figure out what happened about this ancient civilization.
And Fifth Avenue mansions. So when I was kind of doing some research for one of my videos about a church in Omaha, Nebraska, that appeared to have showed signs of the mudflood, I found another slide where this building was, it's completely encased in mud as well. And this street is, when you look at these mudflood buildings, typically the streets themselves are mud. In the late 1800s, early 1900s. And look at this right here, all this earth. It goes right up to the roof, basically, of this building. But this kind of just, I've heard other researchers talking about this, but I just want to do a quick video, kind of reinforcing that you'll usually see these two things together, which makes sense. So there's a pretty cool little image here. In Vicksburg, Mississippi, 1906, the Carroll Hotel. So if you take a look at this building, it's got this, this certain type of architecture. And, you can see here that the stairways going up to possibly the second floor. I don't know, there might actually be another 2 floors below, but it's going up, and you can see all these windows are just trailing off. But you can see, the roads are completely, they're just in horrible shape, but they do have tracks laid down. And, but yeah, the building itself, of course, you got the antenna there. But yeah, it's a beautiful building, and they should be capable of throwing down some brick, but for the roads. But you could tell that this event happened, and they're still recovering, basically. So I think that one's a pretty good example right there.
From continent to continent, a lot of these ruins were just barely poking up, and to this day, if we look around, there's still unexcavated sites with no real urgency to excavate. They were everywhere, and little things poking out here and there, and nobody really explores. Every once in a while, a farmer stumbles across something and unearths it, and it might make national news and then just go away. But besides that, there's no rush, it seems. Most of the old unearthings were done 100 years ago. When it comes to the mudflood subject, I think people are hitting it right on the head, and the message is loud and clear, and what I'm really concerned about, and especially this really hit me when I started considering the cosmology issue, and if we weren't spinning at 1,500 miles an hour, then what are we? Is there really a dome? What kind of dome is this? And historically in the Bible and different things, waters came from the heavens, and in other lore we hear of a crack in the Milky Way, which that's what we're actually seeing, and that's where the waters came from and overtook the earth. So when I think about mud floods, I mean, I'm thinking about something like you need to be able to guide and direct this kind of energy. I mean, we're not talking about just opening up a spigot, or are we? Are we talking about just opening up a spigot, but on a grander level? I mean, I suppose there's other ways. If you were in control of this realm, then you would have technologies that we're completely unaware of. And so, yeah, when it comes to the mud flood, I mean, what do? You really have to pour water from above, literally. And so, for me, the great question right now is not, was there a mud flood? Absolutely, there was a mud flood. But my question is how, and can we see evidence of how? And a lot of people are doing great research on geography and where you'll have mountains above the towns and cities that have been mud flooded. But there are some examples where that doesn't fit the case, where you'll have no mountains around and you'll still have a mud flood just appear. And even where I live, I mean, there's areas all over the place. And I've seen this all throughout the Four Corners region as well, all throughout. You have signs of mud flood in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert, as if there's still things under there, as if something had just dumped mud from right on top and completely covered what lay underneath. And I'm so tempted. Of course I can't just go digging at things, and I don't even have heavy machinery, but I feel like we're entitled to know what's under a lot of these things. But in any case, yes, that disproves the whole having a mountain right next to it, because they don't necessarily have to have mountains next to them. And even in South America, some of the pyramids that we saw were completely buried in mud when they first discovered them, and yet there was no mud anywhere else. Many, many examples of such things. So yeah, I mean, strangely, I feel as if there must be keepers of some sort, and really we can't look to science for this. I think the best chance we have to understand who, again, may control this realm, besides going as high as a higher power, I mean like the highest of high, but something that, would have to control waters, for example, and mud, and make decisions on why, and why to reset civilizations. And really just maybe the mud is actually just to cover up the bodies. I don't know. When we look in the 1800s, the early 1800s photos, more specifically 1850s, give or take 10 years, but we see the vacancy of people in the streets and mud. Could this be a mass burial in order to reintroduce a new wave of people? And what is this? Could this be some kind of experiment? And, you know, I feel blessed to actually be even talking about this and others making videos on this subject and even be part of this conversation, because this is the real conversation. It's not, you know, yeah, we live in a paradigm where we have to run around and make money and have jobs one way or another, but that's not what's really going on. And if you're listening to this video, then you are not just about that. You are about knowing the truth, and it's really the greatest thing worth pursuing, I think. Where are